See these nice cutouts for your seat? These are Ed Bolian spec, custom modified for his extra height. Is it time to start sucking?
Mm-hmm. So that is not a marginal leak that can be maintained. That is a catastrophic leak.
That is kind of surprising, honestly.
So access, so the way that these coolant. Oh yeah, best flavor in the world. No longer sweet, now even bitter.
Do I just breathe down your neck, Evan?
Uh-huh. Makes me work far more diligently.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to DC MotorWerks. My name is Cameron. We are back with Mr. Ed Bolian from VinWiki's Lamborghini, Diablo, SV, VS, Victoria's Secret, all the fun stuff on this one. And it looks a little different than the last video. It has been a little bit, but you can see we got some stickers back on it. It is cleaner. If you want to check out some of that stuff, check out Ed's videos up in there. He's had a couple up. But it is time to go deep into surgery on the Diablo because as you can see when we moved it, it has quite the trail of oil behind it. And in our last number of videos, our viewers have asked us to see more wrenching. They want to see us get our hands dirty, and that is exactly what we are going to do today. We're going to show you how much work is involved in pulling a Lamborghini motor because it is quite a lot of steps to do that. So we are going to grab our favorite drinks with my tech, Evan. I've got my coffee here, and he's got his drink of choice, some kind of...
Which is coffee flavored. Premier protein.
Not sponsored, not sponsored. And I got a Quick Trip coffee, so we're ready to go, not sponsored. We're gonna set a timer. It's about 10 a.m. and see how we do. Not that we're rushing, you know, we're gonna make sure we do this right, just like everything. First step, of course, with anything is before you go in deep, it is protection. So Evan's got gloves and our nice Lamborghini certified fender covers or quarter, you know, it's a little different when the engine's in the wrong spot, but we are going to go ahead and start by pulling the deck lid with the spoiler and the bonnet, engine cover, hood, whatever you want to call it from wherever you're from. But Evan's gloved up. Let's get started. How do you like it? Medium moo or ooh, fried rice, steam rice?
What?
Hibachi cart. Always grab a partner when doing stuff like this because you want to protect your Bianco Perlata paint, also known as Pearl White. Protection's everything, y'all.
This rear spoiler deck lid is actually fairly simple to pull.
No, everything's difficult.
It is extraordinarily difficult. You have not only one, but two bolts. So once these two bolts are removed, you can then firmly grasp and shimmy it backwards.
Everyone needs a little shimmy.
There we go.
And she's free.
And since it's a wing, it's gonna go flying off, so we have to grip it firmly.
Firmly grasp it. That's what Patrick says.
Firmly grasp it.
Step 2, engine cover.
Hood?
Hood.
Bonnet?
Hood bonnet.
Hood bonnet thing.
So this is gonna
Air intake.
Air intake fixture. So this one is, again, very difficult. You have your two struts on either side, and then we are going to loosen it from the hinge right here, but we're going to mark the locations of our bolts just to aid in alignment and fitment later on. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. And you could use something nice and bright yellow, but I like to be a bit more discreet, so I'm going to use a black Sharpie.
Hey, the factory uses bright yellow.
Yeah, but we're not going for a Giallo.
Hopefully your eyes can see that, because mine sure can't.
My eyes cannot see that, but with a headlamp on, I can.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. See, one of the best parts of doing a project like this is to leave it like you were never in there when you're done. No evidence. The clock's ticking. Just loosen the last one, and that way it doesn't just go flying into the roof of the car. So, and that way we can have one hand on it. And be ready for each of us to snatch it off of there. One of the most exciting things about Lamborghinis is that loose hardware. Everything has loose washers, which we get spoiled too with doing Mercedes and stuff because they have captured washers, so this would not go falling off and so forth, but little things. Hand built, it's special.
And here is your release.
So like to do that is I'd rather sacrifice my hand than the paint. You just pull that little spring tab up on your support shock. give it a little wiggle and a jiggle, and you are free. Oh, Evan's got the nice magnetic one on there. So tuck that away nicely, and then I'll pass that to Evan.
All right, we are free-ish.
That's your third brake light harness, which thankfully they give you a lot of slack on. It's a one-hander, look at that. And then we're going to sort our hardware there because there's a lot of hardware that gets removed, and you want to make sure you don't get any of that mixed up. So step by step. Cups are great. Also, our buddy Andy over there, he's busy, but he had the wonderful idea of using muffin trays, which you can hear him getting excited about that. And you've also got ice cartons. So lots of different options for hardware storage that actually work really well. Now that you've got your Diablo derobed, you can kind of have access to everything that you want to get the engine out. But the reason we are pulling this engine, if you have not seen the last video, which we'll tag up in there, is because of this massive oil leak that it has, which is down to like a little couple cent O-ring on the cylinder head on the driver's side. It's actually on both, but the driver's side is the one that's leaking. And then it is down, buried in there, and you can see a trail of oil coming out of there. And to get the right access to that, to pull the intake and pull everything, to pull the cylinder heads, engine has to come out for a, like I say, couple cent O-ring, which for a Lamborghini it's a little more expensive, but to have it made was probably just a couple cents.
So we are going to start disconnecting everything up top. So we're going to try to just keep all of our processes staged. So we're going to do everything up top, lift it halfway up, do everything that we have to do midway, lift it all the way up, start draining fluids and disconnecting things from underneath. So as far as things that we can do on the ground here, we're going to go ahead and remove the covers on the throttle bodies, get our air boxes out of here. We have some fuel lines that we'll have to disconnect in the back, some coolant lines over to the expansion tank, exhaust, more coolant lines. There's quite a bit. Some
Power steering lines,
power
AC
steering
lines.
line, AC lines, battery disconnects. Yeah, there's a good bit. So as I go through it all, I'll document and catch you guys up with whatever was done. And we'll move on from there. Yeah, this one, like, I would love to do everything all at once up top here, but I want to be able to actually drain my coolant from underneath before actually getting my coolant lines up top.
Then you just take a bath.
Yeah.
You get showered on while you're down at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will have to, kind of go up and down some, but honestly, I just kind of go with whatever is easiest. You kind of have to just peel back layer by layer. So easiest thing for me, just get these air boxes out of the way. I'll probably have to disconnect the coils, at least the spark plug wires from the coil packs. And every car is different. Even if this was the 50th Diablo that I've done, you're going to have changes and variances. Every car is different.
That is for sure. That's a frustration of working on hand-built and older exotic stuff. And then you don't know what hands have been on it in the many years that it has been alive. So you get some differences there also.
So this little cover is just for the throttle body linkage. So you have a throttle position sensor right here. So that is electrical, but then you do actually have a mechanical linkage and rod for your accelerator. So that is what is actually moving your throttle plate. And so it's just 3 tiny little Allens, lift up the cover, and then you have access for your hose clamp for your airbox and air intake hose. So we'll get these off and they'll free up some space. Same thing here. This one was just a little bit more complex. So you had this little breather hose right here that was capturing this little shield. So just had to disconnect that in the meantime. And so I'll just roll this hose clamp back on it and tighten it down just so I don't have to keep track of it, and also so it doesn't come off later on. Sometimes these hose clamps don't actually roll down. All right, and usually whenever you have a rubber fitting on stuff, it'll usually kind of stick to it over time with compression and age. So if you just take something and just kind of break that seal a little bit, and just kind of run it around, and then it should, whoop, and we'll grab that here in a second, and it'll release a lot easier. All right, and just to gain a little bit more clearance, I am actually going to take off the upper part of the intake box just to kind of keep this out of the way. So these are just Allen head screws, and this size I believe is going to be a 4. Yep. So it's just a size 4 metric Allen screw or Allen head bolt. And so again, uncaptured washer, standard metric thread, so probably like a 1/0 pitch or so. So at the end of the day, all cars are just nuts and bolts, just Italian nuts and bolts. And so general rule of thumb is that if something doesn't want to, come off, then it's likely held down by something. So I just kind of did a quick feel around the border of it, and I did feel the head of another bolt. And also, I can look straight across as another reference. I can see that there is a bolt at the very bottom that's kind of hidden. So just have to remove that one right about there on this side, and I'll have this out. Battery is going to be located behind this panel right here. So first step is going to be taking off the wheel here. And whenever taking off a wheel, you always do want to make sure that you use a nice protective sleeved socket, because don't want to scratch Mr. Bolian's nice chrome wheels here. And boxed up, we do have some nice brand new Lamborghini center caps going on here, so this will have a nice finished look once we're done with the vehicle completely. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take off this wheel as well, just to free up room, because I am going to have to remove the sway bar, and this will give me access to the sway bar end links, as well as being able to hold the axle still for breaking loose the axle bolts. So, as well as removing fender liners to gain access to some radiator drains. So, wheels off is definitely one of the first steps for pulling the engine on this car. All right, so we're going to remove this tray, and we just have a, there normally would be a fender liner in here. That would be attached right here, so I would have to take out these 3, or technically 4 up top here. But since it's already out, I don't have to do that. So we just have 1, 2 along the bottom. I'll be able to take this out, and it'll reveal our starter battery. So I don't have to keep track of every single nut and bolt that I remove from the vehicle. Sometimes I will just take the bolt and thread it right back to where it has been, as long as it's not going to interfere with me later on, or potentially come loose and get lost. But I'll just thread it right back into where I had it, and that way I know exactly where that bolt will go for reassembly. Since it's a little bit easier to access, I'm just removing the positive lead on the battery. So just eyeballing everything, I'm gonna disconnect my fuel lines right here. So you have individual fuel pumps for each rail. So you have a fuel pump dedicated for this rail of this bank here, fuel rail with this line, and its own dedicated fuel pump for this rail right here. You do have dual pressure regulators right here with one single return back to the gas tank, which is located just underneath the coolant expansion tank on the passenger side. So basically, it's a big old fuel cell in that corner over there that holds all of your fuel, which we did end up draining as part of our first start process on this vehicle, because it was old gasoline. So we're gonna remove those fuel lines. We have on this one, we have 3 coils. So I'm going to identify and mark all of my spark plug wires and disconnect them from my coils and route them on top of the engine. We have a fair bit of stuff. We have this wiring harness for the alternator. We're gonna have some coolant lines at the back over here. So we're gonna have your main feed line for the expansion tank over here, a couple bleeder lines on there as well. And then we'll also have to disconnect the exhaust. This rear support bar will have to be taken out. So just kind of strategizing, making sure that I'm not gonna be making anything more difficult for myself, and making sure that I take everything off in sequence. For connectors where you have multiple of the same type of connector, and they are right next to each other, one trick is to just take your paint pen and just put a dot on at least one of the connectors, just so you can identify which one goes where. Because if they're identical, there's no real way of telling which plug that it is supposed to go into. So just one dot on the, component side and a dot on the harness side, and that way I can go back together with it in the proper orientation. So we have a vacuum line right here, and so since I can't quite see where it connects to the chassis, I'm deciding to go ahead and disconnect it off of the engine itself, and there is just a simple worm gear clamp on there, so that's nice and easy to remove. So you always just want to find the path of least resistance when taking stuff apart. And remember, always keep hydrated in your hot Georgia summers. Though we do keep it nice and cold in this shop. Definitely a plus for not only working space, but also storing cars. So I'm just gonna do the same thing over here. So you can see this loom right there has all been disconnected. So everything had been connected to the engine is now disconnected. And so I'll further secure that to the chassis when it comes time to pull the engine. I'm just kind of disconnecting everything in the meantime. And so whenever you disconnect spark plug wires, you want to make sure that you are actually pulling up on the boot and not the wire itself. Because if you were to pull on the wire, you do risk actually pulling it out of the spark plug boot, and then you'll get a misfire because spark is not actually reaching the spark plug. And the brackets for the loom for the spark plug wires is actually held down by a valve cover bolt. So removing it's easy, but when I go back on with this, I do want to make sure that it does get tightened down to spec, which I will have to look up, but if memory serves me, it should be about 10 Newton meters. All right, so if we were to be doing spark plugs, we would now have access to all of our all 12 spark plugs, but we have already replaced these spark plugs as part of our initial startup of the car. But again, they will have to be removed once the engine's out. So that's not a step that we're gonna take on just yet. We're gonna focus more so on just getting this engine out of here, and we'll deal with the maneuver once the engine's actually on the floor and easier to access everything.
What'd I miss?
Everything, it's almost out.
Yeah. Oh, you almost did?
Yeah.
I got a phone call.
Oh. Better not be Mr. Bolian's asking if his car's done and ready. Yeah. So I'm removing this brace right here, and it is just 4 bolts total. It's 13 right here, 13 here, then a 13 on either side. They do have an access port right here if you're to use like a ratcheting wrench, but I'm gonna find it easier to actually go through the fender well with an extension and get it out that way. It'll be a little bit easier on me. So I say that, and there is an uncaptured nut on the other side. So if you wanna look down here, it is not visible, but just behind this ducting for the alternator is that 13. So I'm just having to counter hold on the other side. And luckily I do have long arms. All right, so that hardware is out. And so on any chassis bracing with Lamborghinis, you will almost always have shims, which is the same case here. You just want to make sure that you keep track of those shims from left to right. All right, so that is the shim. And we'll grab out our other one. That is our other shim. And just out of curiosity, I'm actually going to measure the thickness of these with a micrometer. All right, so that's about 2.6 millimeters on the right-hand side. And our left-hand side is 2.45. So I do like to just keep them where I found them, even though that's a negligible difference. It would just shift it ever so slightly left to right, but still I'm going to keep these separated left to right. Speaking of doing things in a specific sequence, I'm not even going to try to remove that at this point. I can be stubborn and just try to yank it out, but once I do this in the proper sequence, it'll just come right out. So I'm just going to leave it right where it's at. Just snatching out that other bolt that I had disconnected under there. All right, so that's one of our supports. Yeah, that's the second support. I lied, I'm stubborn. Got it. So back over in this corner here, we do have our main engine ECU connector. And so it is just a kind of like a quarter twist lock. So you just have to turn it about a quarter turn and then lift straight up. And so this is going to go and stay with the engine itself. All right, so this is going to be one of my 4 O2 sensors. And so with these older O2 sensors, you do have just a little spade connector behind a rubber grommet. So I was just trying to peel back the rubber grommet before trying to actually pull off the spade. Because at least in my experience, these tend to become really brittle with age. And so if you were to try to just pull off of here, this whole plastic shroud housing would actually start crumbling. So just wanted to peel back and just be as gentle with it as possible. And so for these, they are the same type of connector between the front and rear O2 sensors, but just based on their location, how far spread apart they are, I don't feel the need to actually mark them, because they will only fit in one way. And you can just kind of use logic that the front O2 sensor harness will go towards the front, and the rear O2 sensor will go towards the rear. So you can just kind of use different context clues throughout the vehicle, dirt patterns, witness marks, you know, just basic logic and common sense to figure out where things go. As I disconnect different connectors off of the from the engine, off of the harness, I will actually start kind of just tossing all the connectors that are going with the engine onto the engine. So for now, I'm just kind of tossing them over onto the engine just to kind of keep everything mentally just clear. But once it comes time to actually pull the engine, we'll take the time to just kind of make sure that everything's secured and up out of the way. I'll kind of put some zip ties here and there. Generally, I'll try to flip all the harness over the top of the V, because there's usually a nice depression in here where everything can kind of sit, and I can bundle everything together. But yeah, you just do want to make sure that you have all your wires tied up off the engine. So something doesn't snag on your way out, or something doesn't dangle and you end up pinching it. And so that can definitely be a huge issue later on, especially if you have a big wire loom with a sheathing on it. If you were to pinch it, you might not have a clear, cut in the wire. But if you pinched it, you could have a break in the wire, and you would never know because you have such a thick sheathing on there. So you definitely want to make sure that you always have any loose wires tied up and out of the way and away from harm. So it's organizational and also safety. And some kind of Lamborghini specific exhaust sensors are the exhaust temperature probes. So that's kind of in keeping with my O2 sensors. Since I have my O2 sensors disconnected, I'm going to keep on disconnecting any exhaust sensors. So you have one on each bank, and it is an exhaust temperature probe, and they should be right underneath here, and it is actually connected to a physical box, which is currently hidden by this air box. So looks like I'm going to actually have to remove this air box in order to take these probes out. I could remove the probe itself from the exhaust system, but I do try to touch exhaust hardware as little as possible, just from all the heat cycling that they've been through. They tend to rust and seize, and the fewer times that you touch an exhaust bolt or hardware nut, the better. So I'm going to go ahead and take out this air box, disconnect my exhaust temperature probes, and get the harness wrapped up on top. With this air box kind of up and out of the way, I probably will actually end up removing it. So this is going to be my little junction box for the exhaust temperature probes. I have a couple different options here. I could remove the actual exhaust probes from your little junction box here, but I believe it is going to be easier for myself to just go ahead and disconnect this one connector here, and then the two mounting nuts and studs here, and then it'll come right out. On the Mercies, they do actually have quick disconnects like these for each exhaust temperature probe, and they are different. So you have a smaller one for the left bank and a larger one for the right bank. So it's a little bit easier to keep track. But these ones, they look identical. So just so I don't get them mixed up, I'm just going to keep them intact and just remove the whole assembly. All right. And to remove the air box is fairly simple. It is just a 10 millimeter nut on a stud on that side, along with two more 10 millimeter nuts and studs on this side. So just 3 nuts total. So it seems to be actually double-sided tape down onto the fender liner. Or at least it's just stuck on the studs. So just gonna pry it up some. You kind of have to work it evenly off the studs because it is a tight fit. Alright, and that's free. I'll find a home for that at some point. If you follow this wire right here, that is going to be your exhaust temperature probe for your driver's side bank. And the shorter one is going to be your exhaust temperature probe for your passenger bank. So this one little junction box is going to be serving a function for both banks. So it's located on this side, but it is for both banks. So usually you do have redundancy in having to do two of everything, but this time around, just one of those. All right, so I'm probably gonna start working on getting my power steering pressure and return hoses off. And just to try to mitigate the mess that we make, I'm gonna go ahead and suck out as much power steering fluid as possible. And the power steering reservoir is kind of tucked up underneath here. It's kind of difficult to get to, but it's very similar to Mercedes and other older cars of the era. It's just a metal cap with a rubber gasket, just a little thumb knob. Then it's located right back in here, and it's just pretty much a ATF, Dextron 3, some other ATFs that are equivalent to it.
Is it time to start sucking?
Mm-hmm.
So Evan is going to take a quick restroom break, but you can see parts are starting to accumulate, and this is really just the preliminary layer. I wouldn't even say the first layer to getting into this, as there is still exhaust, CV axle, sway bar, AC, and while you did start evacuating some fluids, we'll leave some of those lines connected until it is ready to come out, because then you don't get dripped on by fluids while you're underneath the car, which is no fun, especially with coolant and transmission fluid. It's just not a good time. So still, like I said, in the very, very beginnings. So we'll see how we do on the clock.
All right, guys, we've made some really good progress here on the top end of the car. I've sucked out the power steering fluid from our power steering fluid reservoir. And at this point, minus the fuel rail lines and I think one more electrical connector up front, I could start disconnecting my coolant hoses and power steering lines, but that would create a large mess because I haven't drained the coolant yet. And even though I've sucked out the reservoir of power steering fluid, when I disconnect these lines, a good bit of fluid is actually going to come out of there, and I don't want that dripping on me while I'm underneath doing what I need to do underneath there. So I think we have come to a conclusion on everything that we need to do up top here. So I'm going to go ahead and raise the car up, drain some fluids, and while those fluids are draining, unbolt some more items and get rolling on that. So, just this oil is just from it moving like, 20 feet, just backing it up, then over here. So this puddle of oil is all from that head gasket leak. And that is a significant amount for maybe 30 seconds of operating time. So that is why the engine is coming out of here. And so that is not a marginal leak that can be maintained. That is a catastrophic leak.
So we got endless comments about this exhaust on the last video. And the reason it looks like this is because the rear bumper is not installed. Normally the rear bumper would sit about right here, and that's why it looks like this. So yes, it's going to look normal. Maybe not in this video, but it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. It's gonna look normal. You're gonna drain all our fresh oil. Mm-hmm. You gonna save it?
For my car, yeah.
What? Put it in your car, yeah. That's $6 a quart, sir.
I know.
It's like 14 of them. That's a lot of quarts. Oh, that's the worst. Oh, look how dirty it is already. See, we're flushing it. Mm-hmm. That is kind of surprising, honestly. I'd expect it to be like new. It's only moved, what, 5 miles?
It's spent a good bit of time idling. While oil drains, I'm gonna go ahead and take off my starter wiring. And there is just a rubber boot around it just to keep it from grounding on anything.
Did you just connect the battery already?
I did.
You sure?
But.
Oh, that's as disconnected as you can get. Yeah. You see these nice cutouts for your seat. These are Ed Bolian spec, custom modified for his extra height. Normally I'd get in here and start ripping stuff apart too, but when you have two techs working on a car at the same time, it makes things more difficult. Right, Evan?
That's right. I'd appreciate your help, but I don't want your help.
Yeah. Because then he doesn't know what I did, and you don't know where you put stuff, and it's just one man, one car.
And it's easier to blame me when something goes wrong.
Yeah, it's all his fault.
All my fault.
You hear that, Ed? It's all Evan's fault.
All right, so disconnecting the reverse light switch. Actually, I might not even have to. Trying to get a plug off. I believe this is going to be crank position. And so right here is the support for our transmission and also our shifter assembly. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo these 4 13 millimeters. And again, with any sort of chassis bracing, you're going to have shims. And so if you can get the camera right up in the seam, you have shims stacked in here. So that looks to be about like maybe 3 shims over here. And actually doesn't look like any on this side. So I'll just make notation that the shims are on the right-hand side, and I have 3 of them. But otherwise, I'll just take these out, and that'll free up the front of our transmission. All right, so that is 4 shims. That is all going on the passenger side. So I'll let this drain more. I'm just going to close it back up for now, just so we're not constantly being dripped on. But honestly, just as the longest that you can give an engine to drain oil, the better. If you let the engine heat up, the oil will be a little bit more thinner and it'll drain a little bit easier. But I mean, if you can let it sit overnight and let it drain overnight, that'd be best. But as long as you can give it. But we'll have the lower oil pan off, and I think we're taking the upper oil pan off as well, resealing that. So we'll be getting all that oil out of there one way or the other. And you just have 2 spade connectors up on the reverse switch, which is actually located on the shifter housing rather than on the transmission itself. They just slide right off. And it doesn't really matter which leg you have on there. It's just looking for a circuit to be closed. So I need to disconnect the clutch feed line for our clutch slave cylinder up top here. And I could undo the banjo bolt up top there, or I can undo the fitting right down here. And just due to access up top there, I'm gonna go ahead and undo this fitting here. It's just a little bit easier to reach. And that'll get that portion out of the way. So that's just brake fluid that's gonna drain out of there. So just taking off that 19 millimeter lock nut. Alright, so now that that is free, I'll just put that lock nut back on just to keep track of it. And then I'll just have to zip a zip tie off right there. And our clutch system is nice and free from the car now. And it is nice and clear brake fluid being drained out of there because we did flush and bleed our clutch. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cap off these lines just to keep any debris from getting in them or for any further brake fluid spillage. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect at least my pressure line on the power steering. It's gonna be a little bit funky to reach, but there is a fitting up in here and a banjo bolt. And so I'm gonna go ahead and break loose that banjo bolt and allow that fluid to drain down and catch it with our bucket there. All right, so access is just a little tight. So ratcheting 24 millimeter wrench is gonna be the ticket here. So just taking out the banjo bolt now off the pressure line for the power steering pump. And so all this red fluid There's all that nice, fresh power steering fluid that we had put in here. So we gave this car its best chance of running and driving as best as it could during its first startup. And it kind of sucks to redo work and fluids, but you can never predict what's going to happen when you first start up a car after 15 years. And unfortunately, it was a head gasket leak on this one. All right, so that is the banjo bolt. And so it's just a crush washer on either side of the fitting. And so we'll replace those crush washers when we go back in with it, put in new fluid, and it'll be getting a even more thorough flush than we had originally done. So I'm going to be getting the axles off of the rear differential next. And it just likes to drip right where I'm going to be at. So I might have messed up my process there a little bit, but while I had that drain bucket out, I wanted to go ahead and get my fluids out of the way. I'm going to be attacking the axles next. And let's make sure my parking brake is not set. Yep, I can spin that freely. All right, that's all 6 broken loose, so we'll zip these out with the ratchet and move on. So that's just a little bit of diff fluid or some of the oil that's separated from the grease inside here. And more likely than not, and actually we can walk over on this engine over here. There's actually presence of oil behind this bolt right here. And so there's actually sealant that Lamborghini prescribes to have be put on this washer that'll seal around here. And that'll actually prevent that issue that we just saw of actual gear oil coming out of the axle seal. Rather than around the axle seal itself, it leaks past the bolt. So as soon as I got that axle out, some of that oil that has been leaking past escaped. So our next plan of attack is going to be our rear diff mount back here. And so you have 2 plates that sandwich a rubber mount back here. And then you do have a parking brake cable that runs through the mount with shims at the base of each of these brackets. So it should be a 22 millimeter nut and a 22 millimeter bolt. And so I'll take out the bolt and then just kind of move the brackets aside because they are kind of captured by the e-brake cable. And that way I don't have to actually take that cable apart and then have to readjust the parking brake afterwards. I'm just going to lift up on the rear diff a little bit just to bring the load off of that bolt so I can actually remove that bolt. And I'm just using a block of wood here just to spread force some. And the engine is actually fairly balanced in this in the chassis, so even with the front transmission mount, the rear diff mount, and just in a minute here, the engine mounts bolts out. The engine does not want to cantilever either frontwards or rearwards, so no need to support it once all the bolts are out. So luckily for us. All right, so it's just one big long bolt with a big fat washer, then a captured nut on the motor mount arm itself. All right, and just finishing up with the rear diff mount. There are 2 13s that hold in each bracket. So just going to remove those 2. And so this one does have crush washers along with a regular washer, which is fun. And unfortunately, that split washer
broke it?
Just broke. So we'll have to replace that one. Through no fault of mine.
We're supposed to fix cars here.
We're fixing by adding more new parts.
Oh yeah. Do I just breathe down your neck, Evan?
Makes me work far more diligently.
So it is just after 1 o'clock, and on Thursdays, I like to take my crew to lunch. So we're going to do just that. Take a break, keep morale up in the shop, because Evan's sweating pretty hard already. And I know everyone's getting a little hungry, so we'll be back in just a moment. We are back from lunch. Evan got his little 2 bites to eat like he usually does. I ate a little more, obviously, but kind of a fun part about doing Lambos is after lunch is always a little rough from leaning over its wide haunches with your full belly, but I guess that's why Evan doesn't eat much.
It's strategic, it's a decision.
Oh, it's a strategic decision. Got it.
So I am finishing taking everything else off that runs along the firewall back here. So we have a little 2-pin connector right here, and that is looks like a ground for that attaches to the intake manifold. Then we also have a vacuum line that runs all the way over to this throttle body here. We have our two fuel lines that I stated previously. I'm just kind of leaving those till the end just because I don't want to smell fuel this whole time that I'm working on it. Additionally, since we actually do have throttle linkages here, we have a throttle cable that runs underneath the body of the car and then attaches onto the back. So I've got bracketry disconnected there as well as the clevis pin. Yeah, once I kind of get this vacuum line out of here, I'll basically be done with what I have to do over there, and I'll start attacking the radiator drains and try to get those unseized and get the cooling system drained without making a mess. Otherwise, I'll just have to undo these hose clamps and just kind of let the coolant go where it will. I think we are about halfway there. Halfway of getting it ready to start pulling out. And then once we start pulling it out, I'm sure we'll run into some other hiccups, but I'm gonna try to minimize as many hiccups as possible and make sure everything's tucked away and everything's disconnected. But we are well on our way to getting this beast of a motor out of here. So that's exactly what I did not want to happen, but basically it's sheared. So I'm gonna have to drill out the drain plug because this is threaded with a O-ring on the end there. So the O-ring has come with it, but the actual stud has stayed inside the radiator. So we'll have to get new drain plugs. But that was expected. And it's probably gonna happen to this side too because this side was seized as well. But we'll see what happens here. Just trying to wiggle it back and forth, just trying to break it loose rather than just going straight for trying to twist it out. Hopefully we'll be able to get it to come out in one piece. Oh, and there it goes. Yep, so another broken one. They are just plastic, yep. And plastic in cooling systems is never, in my opinion, a good idea. Especially as it ages, it always just break and become brittle over all the heat cycling. All right, so we're just gonna have to make a mess and pull one of these hoses. Oh, I'm really good at making messes, but I've got a messy job. Yeah, so I did go ahead and sprayed some PB Blaster on all of my exhaust hardware just to give it a little bit of lubrication coming out. Hopefully some penetrating fluid will break up any rust that's formed over the years. The whole engine bay and chassis is going to be getting a nice wash. So it's going to get messy, but it'll all be cleaned up by the end of this. So we're going to take a brief interlude and clean up our green lagoon here so we're not walking through a mess. Oh, this is just some of the hardware fruit from our throttle linkage. So this is a little clevis pin. So you just have to pop this up off the rod, rotate it up like that, then it'll just slide out. And that is what actually retains your throttle cable to the throttle linkage. And these are just some nuts on the back of that bracket that I was having to do blind. I just happened to drop them. But as soon as you hear it hit concrete, you know you're good.
You don't got a mop?
We do, but it's for water, not necessarily just straight coolant. So I'm just gonna try to quickly mop up most of what I can with the towel, then go over it with the Zamboni, just so used coolant actually gets disposed of properly. So we have our coolant drained primarily onto the floor rather than in buckets, but did what we could. And so now that we have all of our coolant pipes out of our way over here, I think it is going to be time to actually remove the exhaust because the exhaust is going to be directly in our path of moving the engine backwards. So we are going to remove it. access. So the way that these coolant. Oh yeah, best flavor in the world. No longer sweet, now even bitter. So anyways, these, at least on this side, the exhaust pipes are kind of stacked where you can't quite get directly up on it. So I'm just having to use a swivel 13 on it. And apparently someone's already tried getting one of these bolts back in, I assume, and cross-threaded it. So it's just kind of hanging out in there. And it's not budging currently, so that's gonna be a fun one to hopefully get out. So one odd thing of note about the Diablos and also early Mercies is that the ground straps are actually attached to the exhaust and then to the chassis. So it's just some braided copper that attaches at 2 different points, once on the exhaust manifold here and then another onto one of the bolts on the diff. And same thing right over here, one on the exhaust and then another one onto the diff. This is not the factory exhaust system on here. This is a CVX racing muffler. So the original system would be a good bit more bulky than what is currently on here. This one's just a little stuck on the stud, so just gotta give it some persuasion. It is deceivingly heavy. All right, look at all that room for activities now. And let's pluck out the remnants of this exhaust gasket. So if we're to lay this out, should be a full circle. And there you go. So whenever something breaks apart like this, I always do like to kind of reconstruct it just to make sure that I have all the bits and pieces. Don't want to leave anything in the exhaust system or anywhere else that it may be to cause any issues. So we got all that junk out. And now we can get our sway bar out. So sway bar is going to be 2 Allens here and here, and another 2 Allens here and here. And it's just on these Diablos, it is a plastic Teflon bushing inside here, so it's not rubber, so it can rotate pretty freely. So we'll get those out, get the end links off, and then we should be able to snake the sway bar through. And before I forget, I'm gonna grab these shims out for the rear diff. And at least for the rear diff, these ones are, at least in my experience, always equal. So you can kind of just grab whatever you have and then just count how many you have and split it in 2. It's nothing to it. Just going up with it so we can access the sway bar end links. Right over here is going to be our sway bar end links. So these are actually Heim joints, and so behind this dust boot is just a metal Heim joint, and it's just a 13 millimeter nylock nut behind there, a bolt here. So I'll just counter hold it on the back side and zip it out over here. And so you do want to be careful when you pop this off, because not only will it want to grab the boot, but you have little spacers. Yep, so that goes the nut. But anyways, on this back side, if I can get one out of here, you have these little spacers that just kind of float inside there. So you just want to make sure that you keep track of those guys. Otherwise, you will bend the ears on the sway bar. Same thing over here. Sure our spacers are in there, which they are. We'll retain them with the bolt. Just keep all that there. And now comes the fun part of, yep, there goes one of our bearing shells for the sway bar. And they are 2-piece shells. So you just have 2 Teflon bearing shells. So it's just like a bearing shell for like a connecting rod or your crankshaft. It's just 2 bearings that forms your rotating surface. I do keep the caps and the bearings themselves together of whatever side it came off of, even though these are likely going to be replaced, just as while you're in there.
So Evan called Daddy in to help him out because he couldn't get the sway bar out, which on a Mercy you can just rotate out, but Diablo's a little different because of the size of this sway bar and the way it's curved, that can't quite get it out with any kind of rotation. So I'm going to remove one of the shocks, which was good that we checked because the bolts weren't exactly tight. Let's reach up here and unplug that. Sneak the connector through here. And we can remove our prise there. Set it gently on all of Evan's tools. And then I'll hopefully be able to rotate this out of here. Which, just like that. See, it's just those tight clearances that you're watching out for. And you're free. Tight clearances are a very common thing when working on Lamborghinis.
Found the right angle?
Daddy took care of it for you. Again, going back to getting this thing as a bit of a puzzle when it showed up, is that lots of things were taken apart. This left rear brake caliper wasn't even installed. So it's a good thing, but you just never know where to quit with this stuff to find out what all they left loose and so forth, and you never know. We only wish cars could talk here.
So we are nearing closer and closer to getting this thing out. So we have our pressure line for our power steering that we had done and made a mess with. And so now we're going to go ahead and undo our return line here for power steering. And at that point, select AC down, disconnect our two AC fittings right here. These two fittings right here for oil, that leads down to your oil filter. And then at that point, I think we are just about ready to hook up our hoist and yank it on out. Fuel lines, of course, still, leaving those till the very end, shift knob. Otherwise, we are nearing the end.
Aren't two-wheel drive ones nice?
I love two-wheel drive.
You don't have to disconnect the front stuff, and you also don't have to fight the tight splines on the front diff.
Yes, yeah, coming out and going in. Far, far easier.
If you don't have the angle just right between the prop shaft or the torque tube, whatever you want to call it, and the front diff, it's like near impossible to get them to separate. So it is the next morning, quick outfit change, because we stopped yesterday evening after it started raining, just got to a good stopping point to start fresh in the morning with fresh minds to get the motor out, because it is a three-man job, because you got one underneath and two up top just to monitor everything coming out and make sure you protect the nice body work. You can see we got extra protection there for our special engine hoist. But Evan's got everything disconnected. We kind of double, triple checked everything, which inevitably there's always something that kind of snags and grabs, but that's why you have three people to pull a Lambo motor. And so I am going to go grab Mr. Andy, which is somewhere, because we got two, but we need one more. Cameraman doesn't really count, although he can watch. But let me go grab Andy, and we'll start yanking a motor. Andy is now here, so it is time once again to pull another Lambo motor. So you ready? You going down?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Going to the basement?
Oh, if I have to.
Hopefully it's not too wet.
Hey, at least you don't have to mess with the front diff on this one.
That is very true. I'll take that.
So this is why we do a three-wide or three-man pool with the Lambo motors. It's because you want one underneath checking everything, especially on the gated cars, watching the tall shifter, make sure it doesn't drag along the transmission tunnel, and just make sure nothing's grabbing underneath. And then you got one kind of handling the crane, one handling side to side. There's a lot going on when you're pulling one of these motors. So
A lot of moving parts.
what part do you want, Andy?
Guess I'll pull the chain.
Man the chain.
Cameron, do you want to watch the gear shifter for now?
Yep, I'll watch the shifter.
So it's snug. You ready, Evan?
I am ready.
Lift off. And she's free. Hang on.
All right. Yep, we're good, Cameron.
Keep going?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're watching down there, Ev?
Yep.
And the shower begins.
Oh yeah, green shower.
So what we're checking for is just any kind of clearance issue, any kind of one last wire or some kind of connector that got stuck on something. Just kind of make a few pulls and then look around.
Evan, make sure to watch the brake line on the cross member down there too. Once you get up, you can start rolling back.
There's a lot of hoses between the firewall and the engine. You gotta make sure they're all free and clear.
All right, that's all good. All right, that's all out of the way. Let me change positions. Oh man, there's coolant everywhere.
Chain hoist does not care. It'll keep pulling whatever's holding it back.
Yeah, exactly.
We're close to the tunnel, so we'll drag the gantry back. You ready?
Ready. All right, can you come back any before you go higher?
Back, oh, up? Not really, I'm pretty tapped out.
Okay, yep, keep going then. Hold, and can you give me more angle towards me? All right, that should be good.
Once you're clear, Evan, we can roll you out and lower the car.
Yep.
Watch this coolant's pouring.
All right, can we go backwards any?
Yeah, I can come back to him. How you doing, Ev?
Good, just having to
He's having to
Lever
hold it
down.
down.
Ev, what's this hose right here by the engine mount? Is it just,
that's the clutch line.
just need to bump it out of the way?
Is it free?
It's free.
Okay, we're going up. You ready?
Yep. All right, I'm gonna come out.
Can we lower the car, Evan?
That we can.
I got it.
Okay.
You stay there. I'll get it over here. All right, coming down.
Ready?
Okay. Coming back.
You can grab that side, Ev.
All right. Bring it straight back. All right.
Not really straight.
We are free. I'm gonna lower her down.
So if you come around here, we'll show you why this makes such a mess. This is your main coolant hose from the reservoir.
Still yakking.
And yeah. And your block drains, which are buried against the firewall, are both these big, what are they, 14 millimeter hex? Yeah, 14 millimeter Allens. So you can't exactly access them to totally drain the block. So you end up with this, if you don't keep this up, which is inevitable, that you end up spilling some coolant. But
End up taking a bath.
yep, so you get to do a little cleanup, and then we'll put the engine under the car so that Evan can continue his work. And that's a motor. Good job, Evan. You didn't forget anything.
Yay!
It's not clean work, y'all. It's not clean work.
Hold it. Okay, come down. All right, hold it. We got a tranny.
So believe it or not, the easy part is over, because now that we have it on the floor, we'll finish setting it up so that it's nice and sturdy so that Evan can start the real work, which is pulling the intake manifold, exhaust manifolds, everything you see on the top of the motor, even all the accessory stuff has to come off to get these cylinder heads off to get to that pesky little O-ring.
Easy part is done?
Yeah,
Easy?
this is the easy part.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Getting it out on the floor is the easy part.
All right, well, I'm excited about the less easy part then. Let's go for it.
Yeah, all that pesky little O-ring that we're after. But so we'll let Evan get to work here. Stay tuned. That'll be episode 3. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and you won't miss it. And we'll see you very soon. Don't break that.
It needs replacing.
Break this
It's
one.
bad.
Yeah, so this blue rag kit was sent directly from Lamborghini.
The idler pulley's like $5,000. The water pump's like $8,000.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay. We're filming. Quiet on set.
We'll have to cut Evan's expletives for how frustrated he is.